Hello, hi everyone. Welcome to this webinar. We'll give everybody a couple of minutes to join, but I think we can go ahead and get started here. Just by way of introduction, I'm Alfred with Encore Business Solutions. We are excited to bring you this webinar today in partnership with our strategic partner STAEDEAN, and I am going to do a bit of an introduction in just a little bit to introduce the team that I'm with today. But again, once again, thanks so much for joining. The webinar topic that we've prepared for you is around data-driven manufacturing with Dynamics 365 finance and operations. This is a hot topic today in the ecosystem in terms of how organizations need to leverage data and how they can do better with data that they've collected, and how people should put together data governance strategies and data journeys. So we've done a ton of work in this area, and so we're really excited to bring you some insights in this topic. So we hope that you will enjoy the content here today. We can go ahead and go to the next slide. Uh, just to set out the agenda a little bit, we'll do a little bit of introductions in terms of the team and the panel that we have here today. We want to talk a little bit about our joint partnership with Encore and STAEDEAN, and how our manufacturing expertise has helped a number of different organizations or manufacturers in this space do a lot more with their data and their ERP projects. A bulk of the presentation today is really talking about the various challenges organizations are experiencing in terms of lighting up their data and putting it to good use. So we want to sort of consolidate all of the challenges we've heard about in the ecosystem, talk a little bit about how we are solving some of those challenges with tools as well as best practices, and sort of bring our expertise to the table as well. We'll talk a little bit about what a data and an ideal data journey looks like, and then we'll sort of open it up for questions. So that's a little bit about what we have planned for you today. Um, we'll go into the introductions of the team. If you can go to the next slide. So this is the team we have for you today. Of course, like I said, I'm Alfred Salvaraja. I sit on the sales team here at Encore. I'm joined by my colleague Mike Lamb, who is the practice lead for Dynamics 365 business applications here at Encore. Mike works very closely with customers and manufacturers, and a number of them he's currently working with as well. So very excited to get Mike's insights and expertise here as well. Like I said, we're joined by our partner STAEDEAN. So John Phipps is the North American channel director at STAEDEAN. So very excited to bring them along as well. And Eric Van Hofwagen is the solutions consultant at STAEDEAN as well. And Eric works also as part of the delivery team and works a lot with customers on a day-to-day basis to solve some of these challenges. So this is the team we have for you today, and we trust that you will enjoy the insights and expertise of the panel we've put together for you today. Without spending too much time, would like to sort of introduce the two companies so that you have a broad understanding of who we are. Now, Encore Business Solutions has been in the Microsoft ecosystem for over 30 years now. We cover a broad range of solution implementations, largely focused on Dynamics ERP, but we sort of cover the gamut of Power Platform, as well as what Microsoft calls customer engagement as well, sort of lighting up the solutions and bringing them up together. The one thing I will highlight is Encore has spent a great amount of time with manufacturers specifically, particularly in the engineer to order space, in helping lots of mid-size and large-scale manufacturers implement Dynamics. And we are very glad that we have some really nice success stories in this space, and we can share some of that today. Other than that, we're a team of about 120 people spread across North America, and we're also very proud to be one of the few partners that has the solution partner designation with Microsoft, which sort of attests to our competencies and skills that we are developing in the Microsoft ecosystem. So I'll stop there and let John Phipps do a little bit of the STAEDEAN introduction as well.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Alfred. And of course, thanks for having us. Always a pleasure to work with the Encore team. I know I've been working with the team probably for about 8 years, almost the whole time I've been in the Microsoft Dynamics channel. And like I said, great partner to work with, great folks to partner with. On the STAEDEAN side, if the name's unfamiliar, we formerly were to Increase, but we focus exclusively on Microsoft Dynamics solutions. So we've been in the market for coming up on 20 years. Um, I've got over 2,000 customers. We've got a global presence, so we've got a team in Amsterdam. We've got some folks in India. Myself and Eric are both located in North America. I'm in California. Eric's in Florida. So between the two of us, we've got pretty much most of the North American market addressed there. I'll click on here. So I think one of the key things that we thought about when we were putting together this webinar was our shared manufacturing expertise. From the Stadion side, manufacturing is a deep part of our DNA. That's really been a key focus for us. We focus really on kind of two key areas, and that's complex manufacturing and data, and where those two places meet, and how we can help organizations resolve those challenges. We've got deep alignment with Microsoft. We've developed solutions at the request of Microsoft. We've developed solutions that are now standard part of Microsoft D365. And we've worked with the Encore team for a long time on some of these customers. So it's really a great marriage in terms of a partnership because we can both bring our expertise. Alfred and Mike, I don't know if you guys want to add in anything more on the Encore side for the very deep manufacturing expertise you all have.
Sure. We have a lot of customers, as Alfred mentioned, particularly in the engineer to order space in manufacturing, some in the aerospace industry. So we've found a niche there, I guess, in that working with that area. They have a bunch of unique challenges, typically being large projects over a long period of time, very complex, very demanding, and there are a lot of compliance needs, also security, uh, data management, and typically they want to really get to combining their systems together. Engineering change management's a big piece that they face. Typically with older legacy systems, it becomes a challenge. They have an ERP over on one side of the house, and then they have a CAD system, a product life cycle management system, siloed away. Really trying to marry those things together. So that's where our expertise has come in to help customers address those issues and bring them into a streamlined interface and work with partners like Stadion on especially around that engineering change management piece of integrating product like finance supply chain management into their CAD PLM system together.
Yep.
So with Stadium, so it's
And I think that segues really nicely into this slide, which is, obviously we've got a clear idea of what the market's looking like. It's definitely a little bit challenging out there. So we've looked at kind of what we see are the main challenges. Looking at the top couple ones that we have listed in there, I really look at them as kind of key risk challenges. First one, and I know Mike, we've talked about this a lot, but like data security and compliance, that is probably the biggest challenge for customers,
good point.
especially if they're on legacy systems. Maybe you can talk a little bit more about what you've seen in that space.
Yeah, data security, privacy, that's a big, huge one. A lot of our customers, they fall under, uh, government regulatory DoD type security. So it's a big deal for them. Uh, the, the challenge with these systems, typically they're, hosted in-house, still on-premise sometimes. So there's those challenges, multiple systems scattered, not one data governance model across all the applications. So we've been able to come in, adopting the Microsoft platform, right from the very beginning, the Azure, directory, user single sign-on, being able to regulate and audit who has access to what information is key in those areas. And obviously, with finance supply chain management, that there's the robust security there of being able to tighten those things down. And then also it plays well with the other Microsoft products, your Outlook, your SharePoint, and then when we talk integrations, that's another area of security and making sure that the pipe, and that's why we rely the STAEDEAN integration between like the CAD system and F&O to make sure that's secured in there, and also just working with our customers on ensuring that the data is in the right areas. A lot of our customers, make sure the ERP only has what it needs and not additional other things. CAD drawings, sometimes those are sensitive. Make sure they're locked away over in other areas. So it's a big priority for CEOs at the moment.
Yeah, no, exactly. So kind of looking at these, I mean, we talked a little bit about that security piece and then getting into data governance, making sure that you've kind of got access to all the data you need so you can manage cost. And then those bottom 3 points I really see as being kind of opportunities, right? Like what are you missing out on if you're not moving to a solution like D365? Are you missing out on specific opportunities that if you had this data governance, you'd be able to take advantage of? And then are you missing out on kind of the forward-looking ideas that we're talking about? You know, automation is going to be continue to get big. AI is probably I'd say one of the hottest topics right now. So are you in a position to actually take advantage of that? Mike, anything else to add before we jump to our
Yeah,
next slide?
those are big areas because a lot of our customers, it's ever increasing. Margins, a big thing. They want to grow, they want to scale. Uh, Being able to take advantage of workflow automation. Prime example is, finance supply chain, like I talked about, engineering, change management, like automating that process is huge. I A lot of companies need to run pretty lean and they need to grow at the same time. And by having the finance supply chain, a ERP integrated with a CAD system, we're talking on the scale. A lot of these customers have tens of thousands of products, or bill of material with 10,000 products on it, 10,000 items on it for a particular project they're building. That's a lot when you talk about updates and things like that. Having to have somebody hire people to handle those things when they change and manually key them into both systems when as they get updated or as they're introduced into them is a huge cost on a company. So being able to automate that allows their staff, predominantly a lot of engineering staff, focus on what they're there to do, build the product, and not have to do low value work of keying in items, or even worse, the reducing the data quality, issues of that type of stuff too, of ensuring the quality of the data is good between the systems.
Exactly. And you know, if you don't have accurate data, you can't take advantage of those final key points at the bottom of this is, AI and analytics. And so Eric and I will get into a little bit later the data lifecycle and kind of what that looks like. And I think, Mike, you touched on a couple of these, but thinking about, okay, those key challenges, what are the things that really drive that? I'm actually going to go down to kind of the middle of this. We talked about kind of compromised systems or legacy systems that people might be on before moving to D365. Is there anything, people should think about in terms of when they should move to Microsoft Dynamics if they're not there now? That should be really a wake-up call to make that move?
Yeah, the you start seeing your costs. Obviously, margins probably get impacted on their projects as you want to inflexibility, not very flexible. So as they bring on new customers, they can't grow their business very effectively to take on those new projects, those new customers. A lot of times these legacy systems also, they have one or two folks that are really experts in the system. Uh, Being able to grow, bring on new talent, the training of folks is very difficult. They find themselves not able to, add new projects, bring on more business without just mushering their head count, so to speak, or they can't even do that because there's only a few people that know their legacy systems, and they can't uh, time to do new integrations, new being able to automate those things is just hugely costly at that point. When folks spend a lot of their time, a good sign, they're living in Excel, right? So a lot of, like I mentioned before, a lot of these engineers, they got better things to do than sit there and push data around all day, but they end up having to do that. They're living in Excel and bringing in data out of these older legacy systems and then out of the CAD system and marrying them together and doing all kinds of things with them, when this could be automated real quick, with getting on a more modern platform in the cloud and taking advantage. The other thing is just the D365 finance supply chain management. The Microsoft's invested a ton of giving value to the customers right away. They're doing monthly updates now, and new features and functionality and modules are easy to for customers to take advantage of right away, not a year or two later. So definitely
Exactly.
things to keep in mind there.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's a good reason to move to D365 if you're not there already. And even if you are there, I mean, the top challenge, I know, Eric, we talk about this pretty regularly, is kind of that data silo between engineering and finance. How do you pull
Definitely.
in that critical information? And then how do you do so in a way that you're making sure that your engineering staff is focusing on engineering, not data entry? So again, that's kind of really what we see a lot of specifically with that PLM integration is, hey, how do we pull CAD system data into D365? How do we reduce the manual process? Because no matter what with the
Yeah,
manual process, you're going to have human errors, right, Eric?
that's definitely the case, and I still see that a lot during these days. That there's a PLM system, and there's dynamic finance and supply chain management. And from the PLM system, people are printing Excel sheets, like Mike said, correcting them, and then giving them out to somebody that does the data entry with no idea really what the product is about. And then if it's siloed during manual data entry, of course, you get a lot of quality issues, and it can have, of course, people will get the first 50 really accurate, but then if there's 1,000 of lines, it just happens. It's if you're typing over from Excel into Dynamics 365, yeah, it's pretty hard, and it does happen a lot still, because yeah, you have this PLM project and you have the Dynamics 365 project, which is not easy. And then a lot of times they say, okay, people or the company will decide, okay, let's first set up all these two systems and then afterwards think about the integration. And then the integration is being pushed out every time, and that will take a while. And that's what we're seeing in the market. And um, when you and that is a challenge, because any impact in the PLM system, any changes, you can't see that now in Dynamics 365. What will happen if I make a change to a product? An engineer does that. You don't know if there's already a lot of sales being done and on this product and the new version. Yeah, will it impact the future, the past sales, right? Do we need to do a recall or things like that? So that's what we're seeing, definitely.
Yep. No, exactly. And thinking about like those business impacts, I mean, you think about, hey, cost of making a change in the CAD system. What are the cost impacts of that? As well as, are you able to take advantage of opportunities? Can you kind of quickly pivot from an engineering standpoint to say, hey, we've got a new offering we'd like to get to market fairly quickly, but do
Mhm.
we have the financial backing to justify that? So, Mike, anything else to add here?
I just want to reiterate the big thing with a lot of these customers in this space is really keeping a tight rein on the project, budget and cost accounting on that, which Eric has mentioned is, as engineers make changes in the CAD system, PLM, getting those over into F&O is super critical, and keeping a watch, being able on the financial side, keeping a watch on, you know, the margin, production costs, all that stuff, the trickle down of adding this change in there, what that means to the project as a whole and the manufacturing process, the dollar side of it, your margins, and keeping a tight watch on that. Traditionally in the past, some of that, a lot of these companies, know from tribal knowledge, so to speak. A lot of folks just know because they've been there for so long. But it's easy for these things to get out of control and not realize until it's too late, a month, 2 months, down the road that you've already done this and you didn't see the hit on your margin.
Yep.
Yeah, and
As well as
especially with that manual process where you might have only one or two people that really know how that's working.
yep.
So thinking about kind of how you're going to scale your organization is going to be critical and pull in that information areas. And then that for us really opens up the broader piece, which is, we talk specifically about getting data into PLM or CAD systems, but like, how does that tie into the broader data governance strategy? Um, you know, Mike, you can probably talk a little bit about, kind of other systems that you've seen folks on D365 needing to pull information from. Maybe you can talk a little bit about some of the challenges you've seen.
Yeah, typically it's you ask people for their reports, and then they all come in the room, and they have 5 different versions of reports, and no one can agree on the number, right? You say what's your what's your average cost? What's my margin here? 3 people have 3 different reports. An engineer has his, and the finance has theirs, and operations has theirs, and it's the numbers don't add up. They're different, and so this really gets to the concept of the one source of truth. Really looking at we talk about data governance, kind of that data warehouse, data analytics model in place where everybody's kind of equated to drinking from the same fountain, so to speak, on reporting and analytics. So everybody's seeing the same number, which is
Yep.
typically a challenge because you'll have other systems out there, right? You'll have engineers living in the CAD and probably their spreadsheets, and then you have a financial system over on the other side, and the numbers just don't add up at the end of the day. They're close, but just
Exactly, but you
can't run
you
your business.
can't be confident you can't be confident in those numbers. And like one of the points I always bring up with folks is like think about how much time your analysts are spending having to go in and scrub their data before they're presenting it to management. Not necessarily, I mean, beyond just their time, but what concerns does that have if you don't have a good data governance piece? Eric, you've got a deep experience in this. I know you've been doing this for almost 19 years. I mean, what do you think are the biggest challenges on the data governance side?
To make sure that, well, you saw already some topics here: duplication of data, probleming, reporting, not quality data that's entered in the system. And we talk a lot about of course, the products, the PLM integration. Um, and that's also the next coming slides about the data maturity that we're talking about, that a customer will go through phases. And that's something that it starts already at the source, at the data migration, where you can already start the trouble. And if you don't have really a good data governance strategy in place, the end result will be the problematic. And that you see at customers. They have one legal entity, they have 50 legal entities, they have 170 legal entities. How do I get my data correct across all these legal entities? I have one product, my engineer is creating a product, but I have 170 different areas, countries where I sell this product. How can I make sure that everything is the same quality, the same information? Don't I disappoint customers with sending out the correct product? So that's really into strategy, how you want to do that. And then also localization. Brazil different than the US, different than Europe. What do we need to do there? So there are many different strategies, governance strategies that you need to take.
Exactly. So kind of key things to think about. And so, like I said, from the Stadian side, we put together kind of a data maturity journey. So in terms of, kind of what we see as an organization, how they're going to progress through fully utilizing their data. It's going to start with that security piece. Like I know we talked about those legacy systems that, potentially might be a security risk. That, from our perspective, is really the number one priority. Is that something you'd agree with?
Yes, yeah, that's first and foremost is security at this day and age now. As we see all too often, companies are getting compromised, and it's not a good position to be in. So definitely ensuring that the right people have the right access to the data is first and foremost, and making sure there's no backdoors or holes for other
Yeah.
people to exploit.
To make changes, indeed, right?
Make
Then we have a
changes,
big trouble.
exploit the
Yep.
data.
Um,
That's
and
not.
like I said, you can be on the legacy system. You can take some actions to really get that locked down. But I mean, the long-term plan is really, hey, move to a cloud solution like D365. But then that opens up that second stage, which is migration. How do we get that useful historical information that we have to our new environment? I know Eric and I see that as a pretty common challenge that we see that we can kind of help people streamline. But from the Encore side, Mike, anything you really think should be noted on when considering that migration strategy?
Yes, it's. I hate to say it, but security and data migration is like in every project, ERP project. It seems like a customer comes in and everybody is super excited about deploying finance supply chain management and deploying the modules, GL and AP and inventory and production and all the fun stuff, so to speak. But the when it comes to talking about security and data migration, everybody kind of kicks the can down the road. We'll worry about that later, and that really needs to be part of day one. Of customers really need to think about that when they're looking to go on to a modern ERP solution like finance supply chain from day one. Hey, what does my legacy data look like, and what the new feature modules in finance supply chain, migrating that over, what does that mean to me? How, really look at that. 'Cause it also gets underestimated how difficult it is, because a lot of times we're the partner, we're the advocate for the customer to help them get their data migrated over, but we can't do it for them. They know their data better than we do, so we give them the tools and the guidance to do that, um, and the expertise and oversight. But really, the customer, they need to account for that, of having staff available to really focus on data migration from the beginning of the project all the way through to go live. And you also, it it's a journey that needs to be automated too. A lot of times customers think we can do it manually, but data migration isn't just done one time. It's a journey through your project, your ERP deployment, of several iterations. We'll have to do what we often call refreshes and test and dev environments and things, and we need to migrate data over, and we need to
Yep.
have that in a timely manner. So ensuring the automation of getting data out of your legacy system into the modern ERP is there and repeatable and predictable.
Yep.
That's,
Ima, I
No,
that's
want
and
to just do a quick time check here. I know we are a couple of minutes out of time here, so maybe we want to wrap up the last slides, John.
yep. No, and I think we were having such a good conversation. We almost
Yeah,
out of time.
it's fun
But
stuff.
yeah, obviously closing out this slide, that migration piece is really critical. But then once you've got that taken care of, you want to get into governance, keeping that data accurate, and then integrating those other systems like we talked about. And then finally, you can kind of get to that final step, and be that analytics, be that AI, you can kind of fully capitalize on your data, which is really the end goal for all organizations. Um, and we can get into more details. I mean, this is kind of an example of what this looks like in terms of PLM specifically. If you're interested to learn more, definitely set some time with us. Happy to do an overview. And then we'll close on kind of how we can help. So again, key thing is we've got a lot of expertise here. So definitely go ahead and reach out. We're happy to set some time. Mike or Alfred, I'll give it to you for kind of closing here.
yeah, no, thanks, John. Thanks to the team as well. Like John said, please do reach out. We have quite a bit of expertise in this area and would love to chat about some of your data challenges as well as your overall ERP projects and how they're going and how we can help. My contact details are right up front. John, if you can just go to the slide at the beginning. I have my email address on there. And but you will also get a recording of this webinar, so feel free to reach out from that email as well. And we'd love to chat with you. Let me just check if there are any quick questions at this time. Doesn't seem like there are any questions at this time. So yeah, I think we can wrap up at this time, but looking forward to talking with folks and talking about some of these data best practices and how we can help. Otherwise, thanks so much for joining this webinar.
Perfect. And thank you. And thank you for having us.
Thank you,
Always a
everyone,
pleasure
for
to be on the team.
Thanks,
Bye
everyone.
bye.
Take care. Have a good day. Bye.